At the time when I didn't get the CEO job, and we were living in Sydney. He'd flown in from New York and he said, let's have dinner. And we did, and I was sitting with him, and I've been his mentor for 15 years. Big part of our purpose was actually what we called grounded in the community and giving back to the community. And we had sort of 4 pillars of what we did. One was around pro bono work, and it was really focused on treating pro bono clients like Rolls-Royce clients, and our particular focus was around First Nations people, and we partnered with an organisation called ManyRivers, which helps First Nations people develop businesses. And of course our skills as a commercial law firm, very relevant. And you know, we'd do about $1 million a year work, because we sort of recorded it for them. I won't go into the other 3 sort of pillars. So, you know, enjoyed that for right up until 2017, September 2017, when I was living in Sydney, growing the firm in Sydney. And I woke up one day and said to my wife, do you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something different. And as it turned out, something different turned out to be consulting, because I was headhunted for a role, sort of a senior role, CEO role in an organisation in WA. Didn't get the job, even though I'd been the lead candidate. Again, it was the universe talking. And I was 58, still had a big mortgage, wasn't, you know, financially prepared to retire, but wanted to do something that actually made a difference. And one of the people I'd mentored for many years, who's lives in America now and is a CEO, actually was around at the time when I didn't get the CEO job, and we were living in Sydney. He'd flown in from New York and he said, let's have dinner. And we did, and I was sitting with him, and I've been his mentor for 15 years. And I said, I just don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, Push, so my nickname was Pushy Poulsen, do what you're good at. And I said, what's that? And he said, helping people align around purpose and values.
Perfect.
And so I went home. My wife was away in New Zealand at the time, and she was worried sick because she thought, how are we going to make a living? I went home. I thought, that's a good thing. What can I call this business? People, passion, performance. Registered it. It was free. Came back to Perth in early 2018. Started pacing the streets. And if I look at what my purpose then was, I sort of created a brochure, and I created a sort of toolbox. And this is how I described it. I help leaders and emerging leaders create culture where people thrive and organisation flourishes. Blah. is what I think of it now. It was a combination of words, but without any sense of meaning. And I was really lucky in that I was talking to the heads of the big consulting firms, thinking that there could be a role coming in behind them when they've done a big change process to help the leadership teams to, put in place whatever it was that they'd come up with. And I was sitting with Naveen Uni, who was the head of McKinsey's in Perth, and I didn't know him, but someone introduced me and we had coffee. And as I sat down, he looked at me and he said, John, what makes you think you're qualified to work in this space? I went, oh, good question. And I told him a bit of my story, and he goes, okay, I get it, but you need to go and get a qualification. And he said, I think where you need to go is and talk to Corporate Evolution, who train people to facilitate transformation through values, and also the Barrett Values Centre. And so I did, and I did their course in 2018, and it was really fabulous because so much learning behind it around neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, and a bucket load of spirituality. And on that course, part of it is at the end of it, you really sort of sit down and define your purpose. And for me, at the end of sort of 2018, it became my purpose is to help people let go of fear, step into their values, and find deeper purpose, meaning, and joy in what they do. Quite wordy, and actually stopped pacing the streets and having coffee with people, because what I found was people would come to me. And people would recommend me. And, every time I met a new client, I'd start talking to them about the Barrett values model.
Yeah.
And, levels of consciousness. And I think when you're in line with your purpose, you send out a different frequency of vibrations, and you attract people. And then over the last, so it's now 2022, and I've sort of been refining the purpose and my purpose, and it's become really quite simple. And it's sort of funny sitting here with lights. It's being the light. And being the light really means being someone who can shine the light on things other people can't see. And rather than telling them where to go, helping them find their own way to go. And often a big part of that is with clients who I'm coaching individually or organisations I work with. One of the number one things we do when we start is look at values and then look at purpose, and then refine it. So that's sort of my journey in a nutshell.
Thanks a lot for sharing. I think it's fairly intuitive at many levels, from being commercially minded to transitioning to values and purpose, and enforcing purpose, values and behaviors on a commercially driven organization, and then transitioning and transforming that organization.